Munizioni, subito! Chi ha delle munizioni?
One of the best games of 2016 is here. In fact, this has to be one of the best shooters on the current gen platforms. Shall we go as far as saying that this is probably one of the best shooters ever? Well, from the boots on the ground to raiding the skies with bullet shells, all the way down to the gigantic battleships slowly coasting along the sea, silhouetting themselves amongst the horizon, the amount of depth in Battlefield 1 is far superior than many of the shooters that we've seen lately. There are many things that the Battlefield series is known for, and I believe all of that is exemplified through Battlefield 1. I believe Battlefield 1 wasn't only developed from a team spending hours and hours, equaling years frankly, developing day in and day out a game for us to enjoy. No, I believe Battlefield 1 is the outcome from games that have failed or have had a short lifespan. Those games that may be interesting for about a week or two, and shortly after they become obscured and the millions of copies are left on the shelf, only to be picked up a few years later by those with a bit of a nostalgia fix. What I mean is that there's been a lot of trial and error in video games these days, and I think Battlefield 1 is the one that got it right. Battlefield 1's scale reminds me very much of the first time I played Return to Castle Wolfenstein on the original Xbox. Given that Return to Castle Wolfenstein was one of the first original Xbox games to support Xbox Live, the gaming experience surely was something we have never seen before for console gamers. In fact, I even remember the game was so much fun online that the cover art for the Xbox version even said the definitive Xbox Live experience. Return to Castle Wolfenstein was the best example of how fun every game should be on Xbox Live. I may have to say, the definitive experience for an online shooter for this year at least will definitely have to be Battlefield 1. It's the immersion, the visual effects, all the way down to the sound. There are moments that have been so picturesque from the gameplay experience. Yes, the cinematics in the game are great, but the gameplay graphics are superb. It feels almost like a movie when I see someone on a horseback, riding throughout the battlefield, slicing his sword through enemies, and dogfights in the sky create such a visual spectacle that you might just get sniped looking at the planes.
We have lost objective apples.
This game almost feels like a dream come true. For the ones who are into first-person shooters that just want to have that sense of interacting with a World War movie that they've seen at home or in theaters. From the rubble towns to the mountain mosh pits to the desert dunes, the variety is there when it comes to the multiplayer maps. Not one multiplayer map feels the same. In fact, when you look at how many multiplayer maps there are, they're really not that many, but they are so good. The quantity is so overlooked. This is the prime example of quality over quantity. Many games lately have been ridiculed for not having a lot of content, not having a lot of multiplayer maps, or having a short campaign. The campaign for Battlefield 1 is very short. In fact, people want more of the Battlefield 1 campaign. I bet you didn't think people would want more of a Battlefield campaign, now did you? This is exactly what I mentioned in my previous Battlefield 4 video. I said I hope they not only pay attention to creating a great multiplayer experience, but I also hope they make an engaging campaign. I had to get the premium edition of Battlefield 1. I've looked at all the additions that will come later on, all the expansion packs. I did see that you'll be able to play as part of the French army and the Russian army. However, does this mean the campaign? I know there are sources out there that explain what is going to be coming in with the next expansion packs, but I just need a definitive answer if it's actually campaign. We hear about the French army and the Russian army that are going to be added in, but then we also hear about 16 multiplayer maps that are going to be involved in these expansion packs. So I haven't heard anything about the campaign, but hopefully some of you guys can come up with some kind of link, or we'll just keep our eyes out for a campaign expansion. Battlefield will always be a multiplayer game, but what they did in the campaign was exactly what I was looking for. They made a great campaign where you can actually decide on how you want to take out the enemy. You could sneak up on them, or you can go all out loud and basically just turn the field into ashes. Now, of course, with every game, there's always going to be those levels that you really love and the ones that you really just don't love at all. And that's for the campaign and the multiplayer. With every great game comes flaws, and there are flaws in this game, no doubt about it. The UI I found is a little bit odd. There are some things that they should definitely patch. Several patches will come out for this game. It's all for the better, really. There's never going to be a game that's going to be released 100%. Especially with the way games are nowadays, with great graphic fidelity, as I have said before in my other videos, and actually being able to connect with 64 players is definitely something that is a challenge on the network. But we look at it as, oh, it should always work all the time. There's going to be some mess ups, there's going to be some glitches. As long as you stay patient, you're going to have a much better time playing. I guarantee you that. The changes we've seen in the Battlefield series is great. It's amazing what they have been able to do, and it makes you feel pretty humble when you know that you've been playing the Battlefield series ever since around 2002. Obviously, many changes have been made to a lot of the Battlefield games that have been released in the past decade and a few extra years. As time has shown us, video games have become more and more relevant. More people are playing, and that means that it encompasses a lot of age groups. So when you have more consumers, that means that there's going to be a lot more competition. People are going to determine what kind of game that they want to buy. They may not necessarily want to buy two $60 games, they just want to buy one to have some fun with. This puts Battlefield in a very, very competitive state. It's been competitive before with other games, but I feel as though now is the most competitive it's ever been. Other games being set in the future, but Battlefield 1 being different, being set in the past in World War I. It may have been looked at before, how are they going to pull off this competition if they're going to be set back in the old days, whereas the latest trend is being set in the future. But with Battlefield 1 being released, I think this sets as a guideline for all other shooter games. Therefore, any kind of competition that Battlefield 1 has had in the first-person shooter realm, well, unfortunately, those guys have been slapped down. I really think any first-person shooter AAA title games that are going to be coming out later on really have to think about how they're going to capture the excitement and immerse the gamers like Battlefield 1 has. No, not everybody wants to play on a 64-player multiplayer map, but they definitely want to be able to be captivated by these new games that are coming out. And I'm glad that Battlefield has created such a competition, because this is what drives technology. Push the boundaries of video games, even if they're on consoles. Publishers need to give the developers an amazing budget so games can really take a step forward. Instead of being so bothered about backwards compatibility, we need to move on and move forward. Gamers may wonder, what can we do to make sure that we have an awesome game like this one? I would tell you that it's a lot of constructive communication, being able to share your awesome ideas, because you never know who is actually reading the comments. You never know if it's going to be a developer or an inspired developer who will end up developing a game. And taking the initiative on yourself and looking at how games are developed, maybe at a very basic level, to see if you actually like it or not, or learning how to really sell your ideas or tell stories. You never know what can come about by just sharing something that you have thought of. The Battlefield series kind of hits a little bit more personal in my life, and let me explain that. Back in 2010, Battlefield Bad Company 2 was released. A few months later on down the road, I had graduated high school. And as you guys know, once you graduate high school, you start transitioning into either going into college or going into the workforce, whatever it is that you're going to be doing. Different friends do different things. Well, I had some time off. I had some time to just kind of hang out during the summer. And a friend of mine whom I talked to at school, and I never really did go over to his house, but he invited me over to his house, and I saw that he had Battlefield Bad Company 2, and he said, yeah, he really enjoys this game, so we ended up playing it. A few hours go by, and a few of my other friends called me and were like, hey, you want to go out tonight? We're going to this place, yada, yada, yada. And I said, no, I'm just going to chill tonight. So anyways, we're still playing Battlefield Bad Company 2, and we end up ordering some pizza. More hours and hours go by, and we're still playing Battlefield Bad Company 2. I get on a more personal level with my friend here. I didn't really know that his parents were divorced, and they got a divorce when he was at the age of 5, and he lived with his dad ever since. He never really did know his mom at all. And so I got a little bit more personal with him, and I told him that he should try to get in touch with his mom. I didn't want to be too sappy about it, but I did say, hey, try to get in touch with your mom. This is definitely something that you're able to do. Facebook, email, all that. It's so much easier to get in touch with people, and you never know where she might be. She might be pretty close by. Well, anyways, we play some more Battlefield Bad Company 2, and then it turns out that I end up going home. It must have been late or even early into the next day, and a few days go by, and he calls me, my friend, and he says, hey, I really appreciate what you told me to get back in touch with my mother. He told me that she was just a few states away. Now, this was over in the northeastern part of the United States, so it's a lot quicker to go from state to state up there than it is out in the West Coast. So they arranged a time to actually meet up, and I said, hey, that's awesome. I'm glad that you've actually gotten in touch with her, and this is great that you're going to be able to see her. So anyways, more and more time goes on, and I'm talking days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into over a year, and Battlefield 3 comes out. And at this point, I'm on the other side of the world, and I don't really hear from him, my friend, but I do have his gamer tag. And so I'm playing Battlefield 3, and I'm having a great time, and I figured, let me get back in touch with my friend and see if we want to play together. I go to his gamer tag, he's not online. I'm like, well, I'm on the other side of the world, so that's, I'm not very shocked that he's not online. Could be in the middle of the night or something like that. But I go to Facebook to try to message him. However, it's funny, we never were Facebook friends or anything like that, and I tried looking for him. I couldn't find him. A few days go by, and I talk to some of my other friends from high school, and I say, hey, do you know where this guy is? Because I'm trying to get in touch with him. And that's when they broke the news to me. They said that he had passed away several months ago. And I was so shocked. Nothing like that had ever happened to me in high school. I never had anybody pass away. He was the first one that this has happened to me. And it was just so crazy because he was my age, and I knew him. I knew him on a more personal level not too long ago. So I started thinking about it, that if I didn't go over to his house that day, or if we didn't play a game like Battlefield Bad Company 2, I would not have been over there for hours and hours, and I would have never gotten to know him on that personal level. And therefore, I would have never told him that he should have gotten in touch with his mom. And he probably would have never talked to his mom. He would have passed away and never knew that part of his life. So when it comes down to the Battlefield series, Battlefield, it's good in my books. So thank you for watching this video, and if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like, and go ahead and subscribe to Beelzebub's Buns channel. I do creepypastas, and I also do gameplay videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.